What's going on there, everyone, and welcome back to the video from Dracon. Today we're going into the Shadows of Brimstone once again from Flying Frog Productions. And we're going in with the terrifying, the mighty, Forbidden Fortresses Double XL Deluxe Oni Warlord. Now, I do like the artwork here. It looks pretty cool. It's got the little Onis. I mean, honestly, I really wish it did come with little Onis like that, or there was a box for them. I couldn't find a smaller one. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right place. Or maybe you have it and you know where I can find it. That'd be kind of cool, because I kind of like those little Onis. They're like that traditional little, the traditional Asian Oni with like the little horns. Simple. They got those lovely clubs there. Really nice. I mean, honestly, it's a very nice mini. But let's take a look at the back to see what we got going on back there. Okay, so on the back here, it's telling us the Flying Frog's little symbol there. We've got the Oni Warlord, his big paper. We got the small cards. I do have those. I'm not going to go over it because they have a lot. He actually has a lot of cards there in different Onis for him, which is kind of nice. But yeah, that's what he looks like in their version of paint. I love how it says requires a Shadows of Brimstone core set to play. And I sit there and go, not really, because this creature pretty much could be used on whatever I want to put it on. I could even throw this into Warhammer and just use it as a demon, considering it kind of looks like a demon. But yeah, let's go look at the fully assembled big boy, shall we? We'll do a little comparison as we get into it. Let's begin. So there is the great Oni Warlord, all assembled and ready to go. Now, before you say it, yes, I can see a couple seams like on the legs and stuff. I'll get to that. I mean, honestly, I've actually had a little trick of where I use just enough a little extra layer super glue. And then once I paint, usually most of those seams are not noticeable. If it's not, I can always go back in and fix it before I paint. But, that would be a time of then or there. So the Oni Warlord does come with a little booklet, which we'll show off here. Comes with this nice little double XL booklet. Also instructions on how to build. It was pretty straightforward. The longest part, I say, was putting all the arms and chains on. The body itself, and even actually surprisingly, the little lantern there he holds, or his little trap there for people, is actually quite easy. The great thing with this, it actually has like an overthrow, which is like, a mission setup. So like you actually get like enemies, talks about the cards, talks about legendary Oni Warlords. Yeah, I mean, the great thing is Keepers of Death. Like, it gives some very nice things here. Like, these guys have this little booklet is simple, but it would really help you build a campaign around making this a boss fight. Here is his large card, which, as you can see, is quite the big card here. Double-sided as well. It's very big. I'm not sure what color I'm going to paint this Oni. He does have, like, cat skins on him. Sorry about that. I think my camera was just changing its... Yeah, I think it was just changing its focus for a second. Let me just... There we go. Yeah, it was altering focus. So, yeah, so he does have what looks to be tiger pelts on him. So I'll probably paint those as tigers, or maybe I'll paint them as lion pelts, just because... actually, no, I'll probably do tigers. I'll just put some striping on there and make them look like tigers. Try to follow the art in that part, at least. So he's got the 4 sets of fangs, the big muscles. He's got a scar on his chest. But weirdly enough, I don't see that on his artwork, which is interesting. Oh, well, I mean, nice little change. I kind of like the scar on the chest. It gives him more, build. Like, he's got... here's, like, his abilities. He actually has an ability called Warlord's Tiger Pants. I guess because he used tigers to make his pants, it's somehow better. Let's see. Oh, and because he's a towering demon, he can move through that. Oh. Okay, sorry, I was reading his ability called Slave Cage. So if you fail an agility check of 5+, yeah, then the target is automatically, if they fail the test, they're automatically thrown into this cage. Wow. That's a very unique little mechanic there. I actually was thinking of that as a thing, or maybe he slams you with the cage, but I like that, actually, that ability right there. Just, it does that at the end of a turn. Maybe on the end of every enemy's turn or attack him. So he has a 3x3 grid, and he is on a 90mm base. So in reality, This is a gargantuan creature. I will grab a gargantuan creature to compare him to, just so we have like a, a wares to go with it, or at least another huge creature. Because, I mean, he's pretty big. Yeah. I mean, his health is like 35, and then plus 5 per hero, so dang, he's pretty nasty on either side. And even his brutal stuff, which is the same, just seems he's got any new stuff. Nope, just better, powerful stuff. Yeah. Pretty cool creature. Pretty cool demon, myth demon, and all that. Very nice. The cart, and then he also goes these lovely little Oni tokens. Got some like Oni characters, some type of containers, a bag, and a sack. Oh, it's a net. Yeah, Oni death relics, and then we got Oni enemies. So that's pretty cool. You can use these in WizKids too. Say if I don't happen to have enough Onis on the board, I could just pop one of these little bad boys out, throw them on the battle grid. Cards right here, a lot of cards, a lot of them. Not going to go through them because there's a ton. So I bet you're probably now wondering, let's get comparing, man. Put some minis next to this big boy so we can see what we're looking at. And you know what? I will answer the call. So here we have the Great Oni Warlord next to Sandy, or at least my fully painted Sandy from the Monkey King set. If you haven't checked out that set, guys, do go back. I did check out the Journey to the West Demon set, or board game, which is pretty cool. And this is actually one of the main characters, Sandy. Yes, he's been rebased onto a large base, because his square base is a rectangular, and it was really not fitting with him. So I kind of pulled him off and put him on there, and he looks cooler. So as you can see, though, he's definitely bigger than the Devil Sandy. I think Sandy was a devil, if I remember correctly. Or, he's either a devil or a demon. Either or. Pretty cool. But, let's compare him to his namesake, Onis. Since I do have some Onis here that are ready for the comparison. So here we're now comparing him to not just a miniature of that. We're comparing to a Simone minis or cool minis or not. And this is the Oni of Plague. Now, I painted mine not to be so green and plagueful. I made it more of like a little fancier with like the golds and the silvers. I tried to avoid too much gold and too much silver in certain spots. Like, he's got a lot of lovely details going on there. And I think he looks good next to him. True, he's only large and the ogre, this Oni is definitely bigger. Sorry, I'm just going to change his angle really quick. Trying to get more of a... There we go. I just want a little sideways view. It makes him look a little more dynamic because you get a little bit of that nice... You can see the scar a little better too there too across the chest. And as you can see, he looks pretty, intimidating. This Oni Lord with his 4 arms and his more regal, maybe he'd be like his lord and he's his master. And the Warlord Oni is like his big time like general who leads his minions while he sits on the Oni throne commanding them what to do as like the Oni chief. And he goes on from there. Whoops, I just dropped a box. That was a shame. I'll grab that, and we'll get to the next minis we're going to compare with. So here we have the more recent from Monster Menagerie, Oni Mage. Or, well, actually, I think they call it Ogre Mage, even though this is what they use to represent the Oni. Seeing as ogres are apparently Onis, but they're the magical ogres. And don't worry, I will compare him to an ogre, too, of proper size. And as you can see with Onis... WizKids likes them to be ogre size, but yet they're very skinnier versus like their ogre compatriots. They're not as muscular, even though these two Onis definitely go against the mold, or at least are more of a more physically fit physique. And I love this variety in the Onis. I think it makes a difference. But while we're at it, what Oni group would be complete without one of the older Hasbro Onis? This is the Oni Night Hunter with that cool like mace. I wish he actually had more like the standard. I think it's called a Kanabo. I'm not 100% off the top of my head the name of it. I forget off the name. I had these special type of weapons they wield, but it's such a unique. Like I think they just called them iron clubs. And I think they're just iron clubs. If you remember if you know what the name of it is down there, go ahead and throw it out. So yeah, these are giants, guys. They're like ogres. They're in the giant kin family. They're more of the mischievous giants. But in groups, they can be quite terrifying. They're aggressive and nasty by nature. And they're more mischievous, but able to use trickery to get what they want. And as you can see, this makes them look like a very nice band I'm developing. Which I thought, honestly, I didn't have as many Onis, since I have 2 of these Oni mages down here. An Oni Night Hunter, this Oni kind of king, and I could just use ogres to round it out. And speaking of an ogre, There is the ogre there. Now, that ogre is actually a 3D printed ogre, if you couldn't tell, on the gray base with a WizKids base underneath it, just for extra stability and a little sliding. That ogre there, I actually can't say I take credit for that I created. That comes from, I believe it was Dragon's Lodge, one of those 3D companies. I found one of their free test models, so to speak, and I printed it out, and it came out to be a very nice warlord ogre there. Or like a War Master Ogre, Warrior Ogre, whatever you want to call it. And it looks pretty cool. Like, honestly, though, when you look at the size, this Oni is not just mighty. He is a Goliath among his kind. His fellow giants, even hill giants and storm giants, would have to look at this Oni and be a little bit in shock. His head, his body, he's larger than your even, like, huge class storm giant miniatures. He's bigger than they are. I would say, honestly, this would be a gargantuan rivaling Oni. He's so big, he literally could fight my Empyrean Titan hand to hand. Would he win? Probably not, because he's an Oni and not a Titan, which unless... Now, granted here, what if you turn this Oni into a Titan? I mean, there's different types of Titans. Beast Titans. I mean, I did one on the old Reaper Bones Mumlock. And I will compare him, now that I actually just realized he's over here, I will compare him to that Mumlock, who's on a gargantuan base, and is a Reaper miniature, but still it's a Titan nonetheless. But let's do that. Let's bring him out to compare. So here we have the mighty Mumlock standing next to the Oni Warlord. And honestly, as you can see here, they're in the same class. I put Mumlock on a gargantuan base. He's too big and thick to be a normal giant. Even normal mammoth tusks, trunks, and all that don't measure the same. So I made him gargantuan. I went that way because he was just too big to fit in a huge base. You can see where I actually fused in his normal base to the big base. He was just too big. But this Warlord is the same. If I had to put him on a different type of base, I'd probably slap down the 100mm Reaper base, and that's where he'd go too. So honestly, I would say this is a gargantuan creature. It's bigger than the 75mm. It's not 100, but it is like 10 off. So I would say it's gargantuan. This is a gargantuan Oni of great portion. I did say I was going to compare him to a gargantuan beast, didn't I? Yeah, this thing definitely is able to stand up as maybe this could be a huge Oni god. Some type of like Oni god of slavitude or Oni god of suffering type thing, where he brings suffering upon the foes and enemies. And it works really good. And next to even like other flying frog creatures, it can make them look quite small. So here he is next to the Alpha Raptor of Jorgano. I always feel I'm going to say it right, but yeah, I think it was correct. Alpha Raptor of Jorgano. And as you can see, he dwarfs this large class raptor. And this large class raptor is a pretty big boy. But this Oni, oh boy, he looks down on him and says, boy, get ready to either become my pet or get clapped. This Oni is really good, and I'm glad I get him. Now, let's get to the price of this big boy. Now, I know what you're thinking, what's this mini going to cost? Especially if you go by WizKids. Was it $50, $60, $70? Careful, now we're starting to sound like, Warhammer here. Oh, boy. Let's not go down that way and go out like Games Workshop and break the bank. No. Surprisingly enough, this guy was only $20.99. And I know what you're thinking, no way. About $22 or so. There's no way. Like, you're thinking Dracon. You're pulling my leg. I swear. On Amazon, when I got him, he might not be anymore. Prices never last forever, but he was $20. And I literally, when I came across the Oni Warlord, I was like, I'm buying it. This is going to be cool. I mean, I loved Baliel. I loved the raptor here of Jorgano. They're great supplementary and other creatures. So I was like, why not? Get them. They're great beasts. Like, here's another cool dinosaur. Baliel, a cool new demon lord, or just a super powerful big bad. Here's another new big bad, the Oni Titan. Which, yes, I'm going to call him a Titan because you can see he's picking up humans. Now, granted, if you compare it to something like Attack on Titan, you still got a way to go in growth. But, this could be your big time, maybe mid-boss of your campaign. Because, I mean, being an Oni, he's going to have some magic, but he's not going to be like God tier where he's throwing out giant fireball, like giant firestorms and stuff. But, you know, he could have some fire breath or fireballs out of his mouth. Maybe a couple, like, quaking earth attacks because of his size. And he'd be pretty cool. Let's just get... And there's a nice little shot of him and the other Onis that I have to... Oh, I know this one's going to be like, wait, that's an ogre. Well, remember, Onis are supposed to be ogre mages, but yeah, there he is next to everything else in comparison. There you go, now I just moved the ogre. He was off throwing off the aesthetic of the 4. But yeah, there he is. A nice, lovely Oni beast, king sort of level of warlord to go with my Onis to terrify my players. Now, if you come this far in the video, I thank you very much for coming this far. If you haven't done so already, make sure to smash that like button. Helps the channel. Make sure you throw a comment down below, whether you have questions, ideas, comments, concerns, or maybe if you just want to throw a kudos, or you have any questions I didn't answer. I'm glad to answer back. I try to get back to all comments thrown at me. And follow up, guys. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. A small click for you, but I greatly appreciate the help growing of the Dragon Army. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I'll see you next time. Have a great one, and see ya.